back at it again with another video. And today we're going to be talking about, is Love is Blind done? Has it ran its course? Has romance reality met its quota? Season 5 of Love is Blind recently dropped, and I've been seeing a lot of continuous viewers say that, you know what, something ain't working, the formula's broken, the equation ain't fixed. What does this mean for the future of Love is Blind, right? Being a genuinely good show. Romance shows have been a guilty pleasure for many for decades. I mean, I know for me, I love a good romance show. And Love is Blind, I would say in modern times, is arguably one of the most successful love reality TV shows of the 21st century. But a show that was so dearly loved has now lost its magic. And today we're going to go through the trajectory of the show, how it started, the success story, what it does right, what it does wrong, and if there's something that we can do to fix this. So comment down below. What are your opinions on this topic? Please comment down below. I will get back to you. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more commentary content like this. Check out all my other Love is Blind content previously, because I've done some on past seasons. And also, I have a new intro. I premiered it with my last video, so go check that out. But the intro is video edited, concept created by me. So yeah, I'm a graphic designer. If you guys have any inquiries for me, hit me down below in my email. But I'm very proud of the work that I did. So yeah, thanks for watching. I've rambled enough. Let's get straight into the video. Let's go. So let's talk about the history of the show. It was a new take on a social love experiment where, quote, emotional connection attempts to conquer physical attraction. Participants meet behind a wall, right? Women and men date each other in the pods, 15 on one side, 15 on the other. And it goes from essentially a speed dating format to slowly having the autonomy to pick your strongest connections, and then you start solely communicating with that person, where you could talk to them for 5 to 6 hours at a time with no distractions, simply a wall in between you two, and you get to really communicate, right? You have no knowledge of how the person looks. And within this period, they can get proposed to at any time. At the end of all of that, whoever is standing, whoever has coupled up and decided, hey, we're gonna get married, they meet for the first time, see each other, and then they go through a process. Get to the altar within about 3 to 4 weeks, and they say, I do, or they leave their person at the altar. After that season airs, you take about a year, and then they have an after the altar special that shows us an update. So it creates a nice trajectory of their journey, right? It doesn't feel so abrupt or cut off. So Love is Blind's first season and best season dropped February 13th, 2020. And I would say at the time that it came out, it was pretty popular. And I remember not really tapping into it, but with the looming pandemic in March, so about a month later after the drop date, once we were locked down, time stood still, and a lot of people had too much time to consume reality TV, to watch movies. And I think Love is Blind, in a way, it sounds bad, but came at a perfect time because the world literally stopped. So now everybody caught up. And at that point, all everybody could talk about was Love is Blind. And the popularity even led to adaptations of Love is Blind Brazil and Love is Blind Japan. So it became a worldwide smashing success. I would say this is arguably Netflix's most popular, most watched reality television show. Recently, a new season dropped, season 5, and now we're left with this wretched season, which many are expressing that it's quote unquote the worst season yet. And a disconnect is absolutely happening. So the best way to evaluate this is by looking at what Love is Blind went right and where they are going wrong. So let's talk about what Love is Blind did right. So the concept of the show inherently was what people were looking for. The plain model of, okay, one person versus 25 people. We're not really developing deep connections. Yes, this concept seems outlandish because it ends in marriage, but it was refreshing to feel like, you know what, these people can't see each other, but it's not like married at first sight, like, because that's just absolute. I can't get with the program with that. But it felt like people could be themselves. I think it was a new, fun take, and just the production quality, the value, the pods, it all fit like a glove. It all made sense. So it was really fun to view other people go through a process like this, because we felt like we were in on something that obviously they weren't. We knew what everyone looked like, but it was the excitement of seeing how the connections would develop and how these people would mesh in real life. Would they like each other? Would they not like each other?
Well, I was gonna leave you after I saw you and gave it a chance.
How would they fit into each other's lives? I think a key part of this too is that it didn't make a mockery of the whole you can't see them. I remember when seeing a preview, I was like, oh Lord, are they gonna like put somebody back there who like clearly might not be the most attractive person? Like it's obvious, like it's a joke. Or like you're gonna get somebody up here who looks crazy to kind of con people. They did a very good job at casting everyday people who looked like you and I, and it felt authentic. It felt like, yeah, a lot of these people I think would meet on the street and potentially be mutually attracted to each other. I also think a huge success point was the realism of the show and how process was. You have people living in the same city, so they made sure the first season was in Atlanta. We're all gonna be from there. We're all gonna live in the same town relatively, which eliminates that factor of distance. That's a lot to figure out for a couple, especially a couple that might get married. So the fact that they put it in the same city was a great idea. Also, the apartment living for 3 to 4 weeks. They move into a shared apartment alongside other couples, and they get to experience in a neutralized space what it is like to live with each other, what it's like to potentially be married, so they can work out the kinks of finances. How does this person cook? How do they clean? How do they communicate? And I think that was an excellent way to try to simulate real life, but also controlling those factors for them so that they didn't have to like argue over whose apartment is whose. And with all of this, the anticipation builds up to the altar, to when they all see each other. That's probably the best part of the season most of the time, is when all of the cast meets, or during the resort trips when couples meet people that they were talking to or potentially said no to, and they might regret their choice. We have that first reveal where you're like, your heart, you're like, oh my gosh, I pray that they like each other. And lastly, let's face it, Lauren and Cameron being such an authentic, successful love story, being a part of the first season, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for this show, because this is aided in the believability of their burning question, is love blind? And Lauren and Cameron were such an authentic couple. The couple that would have never chose each other on the outside, right? Maybe the racial barriers.
Feeling like a kid with you. You're my main chick, those other girls are previews. Hop in the back, rolling up, then we're free to cruise.
Going for something that you usually don't go for. And then still being married 5 years later, having this really deep bond and connection. I mean, that has been the selling point. That is what has kept a lot of viewers watching, because we're like, are we ever going to see another Lauren and Cameron? So all of that being said, I think this is why Love is Blind was so successful, especially in its early years, because of these factors. So now we're going to discuss what went wrong with Love is Blind. One thing was too much manufactured drama. Once we started getting into later seasons, I felt more and more like things were producer induced, or the editing was missing context and it was very obvious, like A wasn't equaling B, and it stopped being maybe as much about love connections. I think about season 5, this recent season, the beef between Stacey and Johnny. I could see why there would be, because there were some sly remarks, but when Stacey came for Johnny, it didn't feel like we had the full story. It didn't felt like it was that serious.
Okay, go ask anyone out there if I'm a shitty person.
I've already done that, and I'm very confident in my opinion.
Okay.
Which is why I don't look at you.
So the magnitude of the energy she was giving wasn't matching the magnitude of the situation. And as much as I enjoyed season 4, the mean girl beef with Irina and Micah, it was entertaining. But I remember thinking to myself, I was like, what is Love is Blind doing? Like, is this Bad Girls Club? And I know it kind of detracted from the stories overall. And it actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. I wanted to know more about the connection. I think that's what made Love is Blind so strong, is that the show was so heavily focused on connection. So when you start adding like mean girl beef and all this stuff and making it such a highlight, it's a little exhausting. And we're going to talk more about this, but the Lydia, Uche, and Aaliyah drama, okay? It was the talk of the town. There was very little clarity in the situation, and it felt very disingenuous. And we'll talk more about this later. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Love is Blind also got exposed for working conditions, bad and poor working conditions. Multiple cast members have actually come out and expressed that they were, quote, succumbing to exhaustion, falling asleep during dates while working long hours on a windowless set where they allegedly only saw light of day when using the bathroom in a trailer outside. Others made claims that Love is Blind was depriving contestants of food and water, which I don't know if you've noticed in later seasons, but they tried to go out of their way to like show that we are feeding these people, okay? And I think that this was out of the controversy and the lawsuits, because actually former contestant Jeremy Hartwell sued the production company Kinetic Content for some of these claims. And some contestants said that they experienced depression and needed to enroll in therapy after participating in the show. However, Kinetic Content denies all of these claims. I think that also did create like maybe a bit of a bad aura or a questionable aura around Love is Blind, because we all loved it. We had nothing bad to say about it, right? And let's talk about some of the reunion issues, okay? Since season 2, particularly, Nick and Vanessa have proved to be quite disappointing when it comes to hosting these reunions, not asking the right questions, or being clearly biased in a situation where it was clear as day, at least to me as the viewer, that somebody was dead wrong, and you have somebody like Vanessa antagonizing the wrong people at the wrong moment. In my mind, I think a lot about Cole season 3, how he became completely villainized, and I did a video on it, by Zenib and the whole cast. And Nick and Vanessa, without really doing their due diligence to figure out like both sides of the story. Also, Vanessa taking Jackie's side, season 4, being extremely kind and polite to her after how nasty she was, but giving Marshall all of the smoke. It was very frustrating for us as viewers. And then you also got Vanessa always asking somebody about a damn baby, which is arguably inappropriate. And then we got to talk about the failed live reunion. That was supposed to be one of the biggest, or one of the first live streams in Netflix history. It was supposed to be a huge deal. And we didn't get it till about a day later. Like, talk about a disappointment. And then the reunion was half-assed. Like, it wasn't even that good to be waiting that long. And I would like to say this as well with the reunion. I personally think reunions should be contract requirements. If you make it to a certain point, you can't run, you can't hide, you need to come, you need to be there physically, unless of course there's an emergency. But Uche not coming to this reunion, whack. Jackie being able to get away with doing a video interview and not being able to, or not being required to have dialogue in person with folks, nah, it's very unsatisfying. So the reunions, they've been a no-go. Also, I would argue that bad casting. In recent years, I feel like the casting has been piss poor. It's been very underwhelming, to say the very least. Season 2 particularly, oh my gosh, comment down below if you agree. But season 2's cast was such a snooze fest. I think I've forgotten that any of them existed. Like, that season was so bad. It was so bad, especially in comparison with later seasons and the first season. Season 5 was also, in my opinion, a snooze fest of a cast. I remember seeing promo videos for this season, and Johnny particularly was the promo video. And I'm like, boring, sleep. Season 5, like the first couple episodes, I didn't even think I could possibly get through it. And this also goes into people not being there for the right reasons. You say one thing, but your actions are saying another. And this goes into casting as well. Casting people who don't know what show they're coming on. A lot of folks over the years have been heavily look focused. A lot of the guys. And if this is such a huge barrier for you, like huge to where you feel like you can't even really compromise it, why are you going on a show called Love is Blind? Cole.
I'd approach you in a bar too, by the way.
Yeah.
We'd approach each other.
Bartise.
I'd love to see everybody for the first time. Raven's like the typical girl that I would go after in the real world. Like Raven's, she came down, she wearing the tight clothes. I was like, okay, she's a fucking smoke show. She's hot as shit. I was like, okay.
Impressed when I saw you.
I appreciate that.
Atta girl.
The reason why I'm not super flattered by what Bartise is saying is because like Bartise never had any compliments for the pod Raven.
Shake.
If we were to be at a music festival, do you like being on a guy's shoulders?
Yeah, you're up for the challenge, you can pick me up.
Yeah, but will I have trouble picking you up?
I'm not physically attracted to her. It feels like I'm with my aunt.
JP, judging these women's looks when half of y'all have a face only a mother could love. And you have the nerve to be so hooked and so upset about looks when you came on a show called Love is Blind. Too Hot to Handle exists. Love Island exists. Go do that. But being so looks-based, I think that that's been a major pitfall of casting. And I think some of the people who cast felt like, you know what? This might be entertaining to get somebody who's like such an a-hole. But to me, it takes away from the experiment. And then you got people with whole other lives. Like SK. Basically being a whole cheater. Basically having a girlfriend. Potentially while filming and with Raven while they were engaged. Like being involved with somebody else. I mean, and then over the years, we piled on a lot of the problematic cast members and some of like low-key abusive, like mentally abusive folks who have been on the show. Viewers have even questioned if some of these people are safe. Mind you, this is speculation. I am not accusing anybody of any of these things, but these are things that have been brought up as a concern for viewers over the years. Matt's aggression. A lot of people were concerned for Colleen's safety. Jake's blatant disrespect. He was a troll. And it just was like, it was disrespectful at a point where it wasn't like entertaining or funny anymore. Cole's harmful comments on looks towards Zainab, right? Like he didn't know when to stop and she's made accusations about him talking about her weight. Zainab's manipulation, okay? The girls aren't safe. The girls are not safe. AKA the cutie scene. That's all you need to know. Danielle's emotional manipulation season 2. That was extremely problematic. Jackie's nasty spirit. I don't even really need to get into that. And Irina's bullying. And then up to this recent season, we have Uche, who some users, I don't throw this word around. Viewers, they're calling him a narcissist in the comments. When you start stacking all of these things up, it does start to feel like, you know what, are these people really here for the right reasons? And is Love is Blind really facilitating healthy connections or really like protecting people on these shows? Because marriage isn't a joke, right? And if you're here for the right reasons, you don't want to be here with people who might be two-timing you. Lastly, I think a big part of what has aided in the downfall is the oversaturation of seasons. Every time you turn around, it's another season. After The Altar comes on, bam, it's another season of Love is Blind or The Ultimatum or whatever. And you don't really get a chance to like digest maybe what you've seen. And then another cast, another casting call, another preview shows up and you're like, gotta start this again, right? The madness begins again. In theory, pumping out content, excellent, love it, great. But when the quality of casting starts to diminish, when the quality of production kind of starts to diminish, when the quality of people starts to diminish, it just overall adds to the cheapening of the show. And when you guys aren't listening to folks about like, hey, we do not like Nick and Vanessa. At this point, they must have a contract that's allowing them to still be here. But you also have to listen to your fans. Twitter is a tool. Social media is a tool. These shows need to use it because we're helping you guys do your job for you. So I think that's a lot of what has made Love is Blind as a whole kind of decline. Now, why this season was the absolute worst. Now y'all want to hear about this season, we can get into this season. The exes being on the show, not getting the truth on that, still seems very suspect. The producers were put in a predicament where this has never happened before. 2 people applied to the show. You know, they both made it to the pods. In Houston, I'm supposed to sit here and believe, potentially, that this just randomly 2 exes, recent exes, both applied to this show and didn't do it on purpose. So then you guys give everybody else the runaround who was here for a real connection, for a real reason. Somebody like Aaliyah ends up getting the end of the stick because y'all couldn't cover your bases, or you guys can't cut through the BS and like really see what this is. I think that ruined a lot for me. I just think it seemed very shady. We got a very messy cast outside of the show too. There's been tea on Milton, that Milton, before he went on the show, had a girlfriend that they were doing fine, and he just like dumped her and went on the show and then got married to somebody. So even the most redeemable characters on this show this year, not so redeemable. The Uche and Lydia saga still kind of unraveling on social media, which again is a testament to how poorly the reunions are done, because some of the stuff that we should really kind of be cutting to the chase and talking about and keeping on one platform is not being discussed. And then it's just like, it's a bunch of hearsay. So you never really get the concrete details. You had Aaliyah doing interviews prior to the season fully being out. We found out that Chris cheated on Johnny and just like left her.
I will always defend those I love, but if I may, would you cheat on those you love?
Apparently, yeah.
These folks hooking up at bars years later, dating who, having dates with this person's ex and double dates with their ex-fiancés. It was just a lot to keep up with, considering that there were hardly any real connections on the show. So most of the drama is coming from some bull crap or some stuff that was online. This season, it didn't click, it didn't connect. We only had 2 couples go to the altar. I mean, and both of the couples were not promising. Not promising. And then I kind of briefly talked about how people can opt out of coming to the reunion, but just the idea that people signed up for a show, but they get to opt out of filming and or editing just completely takes some of these scenes out. For instance, we talked about Uche not showing up to the reunion, but also Aaliyah and Uche not being shown after their dinner, Aaliyah and Lydia never having an on-camera confrontation, and if they did, it was never shown. Or you have JP and Taylor, who once they left the resort, we didn't even see them at the group, hangout. So I do think that there should be, like, for the sake of following the show through and for us to actually be invested in these stories, I think they need to see the stories through, and a requirement should be that, like, if you sign up for the show, you should be expected to, like, see it through. And then we got to talk about the elephant in the room. There were couples not included on the show that were completely cut out in a way that like didn't even make sense. According to Pop Sugar, during seasons 1, 2, 4, and 5, there have already been couples that got engaged in the pods but were not featured. Though most unaired, engaged couples did not participate in filming beyond their time in the pods, one couple in season 5 was filmed all the way up to the altar, okay? But the relationship was not included in this series. So they completely cut Renee Posh and Carter Walt out of season 5. She says, quote, when asked, "I was just as shocked as everybody else. I got a call a couple months before the show aired in August to let me know that our story wasn't going to be a big focus. What I was told was, well, we'll just point blank say that Carter was awful, and we don't want you to have to relive that. That's just not going to be a big focus." And they also said timing was an issue, so they decided to cut our story out, and that's what I was told. So you're telling me a season that only had 2 people make it to the altar, you found it necessary to cut out a couple's journey when we kind of needed it. We kind of needed it. They also are saying Carter was awful to you. We're not going to show this. There were arguably couples that a partner was awful, and they were still shown. The mess was still shown. The drama was still shown. They weren't protected. So yes, in theory, is it great that they might be trying to like prevent things like that happening again? Sure. But to be so vague with said contestant on why they wouldn't be shown, and then to make really bad edits where you can clearly see that they're apart or involved. It just feels sloppy. It just feels like somebody really didn't think it through. The wedding dress scene where Lydia was going to pick out her dress and Stacy. Renee was actually there and they just made it look like Renee came with Lydia, but you can also see like Renee's family members and friends sitting there as well. A couple other people also said that they saw Renee and Carter in the backgrounds of the resort scenes. So they probably did have to cut a lot of footage this season, at least group scenes, to kind of eliminate them. And I think maybe that aided in the stories really not like adding up or just something feeling like it was missing for me. Let's talk about it in general for this season. I just think a lot of these folks didn't want to get married. I don't. Think about a lot of the people who got into relationships after the show. Is almost like they used this as Tinder or like their dating profile. And like now everybody has a girlfriend or boyfriend off the show. But obviously nobody's engaged to their partner because like, it's kind of crazy, but you were ready to get married. So how y'all all got boyfriends and girlfriends, but nobody's with each other? Chris has a girlfriend. Stacy's dating somebody. Izzy's dating somebody. Uche is dating somebody. Milton, we already know about his little girlfriend that he apparently left. But it's just like, are you guys really ready for marriage? With Uche and Lydia, I'm also like, okay, if you guys were this in deep, I'm not saying that they were both either the one for each other, but it's like, were you really ready for marriage? Because if you were, why didn't you guys ever really get to that step? Milton, if you left your girlfriend, if that is true, you weren't ready to get married to her, but you were ready to go on a TV show about marriage. Make it make sense. And quite honestly, there was just really no one this season to root for. I didn't really care for anybody like that. Lydia is a no for me, dog. You guys cannot convince me no matter which way you slice it or dice it. Lydia's crazy. This revisionist history happening, how easy they went on her during that reunion, I'm not buying it. I think that she's very calculated. I think she got what she wanted. She played the game and she did it better than anybody else because she's the only girl that left with a ring on her finger. Stacy, she was just a little off-putting. I feel like maybe we didn't get a good grasp of like her character, but she just kind of came off as rude, a little bit abrasive, and in a way, I think she had some very valid points, but I just didn't really connect with like the whole rich girl spiel. It was just a little like, okay, love that for you. Izzy was cool initially, but after the whole like,
I was railing into her.
Nah, I was like, I'm checked out. Aaliyah, I wanted to really like her, but she A, disappeared, and B, she was just letting Lydia and Uche and everybody talk to her in any kind of way. And it was just giving like lost puppy dog. Like, I need you. Backbone. Backbone. And it's easier for me to say that, but I was getting so angry at the way that they were treating her and she was just kind of allowing it to happen. Yeah. JP, ill. Just ill. Yeah. Taylor, she was cool, but we barely saw her. She left, she dipped, didn't see her for the whole season. Uche, way too intense. The way he talked, too intense. He was like always like somebody's dad, like just doing a little too much. There's too much reprimanding, too much holier than thou. Yeah. Milton, he's cool. He's okay. He, you know, comes off as mature, but I still can't get a grasp on him. And then Chris. We have the undercover cheater, the one person who were like, you know what? He seems like a great guy. Yeah, no, ended up not being shit. Johnny, shifty, just back and forth. Honest, not really, right? So now we're gonna get to ranking the seasons. Here's my rank. Comment down below your rank. In number 1, our top season is season 1. And our successful couples are Lauren and Cameron and Amber and Barnett. My number 2 is season 4. And we have our married couples of Tiff and Brett, Bliss and Zach, and Kwame and Chelsea. Season 3 was my next. It comes in at 3 with Colleen and Matt still being married, and Alexa and Brennan. And then number 4, my 4th, is season 5. Obviously, this season was only Milton and Lydia. And now apparently they're living long distance, by the way. And season 2... coming in at number 5, this season was god-awful, Lord. No lasting couples, Both couples actually did get divorced shortly after they got married. It hadn't really been that long, but initially it was Jarrette and Iyanna that were married, and Nick and Danielle. That season was just horrible. So that's my rank. This begs the question, after me saying all of this, is love really blind? I think it kind of is, but if anything that this show proves is it proves that outside factors absolutely do come into play. You cannot just love somebody because of their emotions and what's on the inside, right? Looks, I think, can definitely take a back seat, but I think there's factors like finances, certain values, location. There's certain things that have to be there in order to have a successful marriage. And I do think that the show has had a successful marriage rate. Or like success rate with couples that genuinely do seem happy and have been married over a year or have been married for a while. So I do think though, anytime you have marriage as the end goal of a show, it does put a lot of pressure on those folks, and it does feel wildly impossible, unrealistic essentially for us normal people watching. And for them too, it's crazy to get married in 3 to 4 weeks, not even have seen the person for the first like 2 weeks. However, I do think that this experiment does work to some capacity, and that's absolutely been proven. So yeah, I think it is, but I think the show needs to get back to what we know and love. So in conclusion, to finish this out, it's been a long ass video. I think Love is Blind may need a longer break in between seasons. I think they're pumping out content like a machine, but as close as we may feel to the last cast or still sifting through the residual drama, I think it's just moving on and moving too quickly. Maybe they're not, again, able to take the time to really cast great people, or they're rushing seasons. And I think they might need to like go back to the drawing board, take some time before they come out with a season 6 and breathe a little bit. I already talked about it. We need to get rid of Nick and Vanessa. We're done with that. But I do think that the show is redeemable for sure. Do I think it's dead? No. But it's becoming more obvious that viewers are unhappy or very unsatisfied with the seasons lately. I think we're all Love is Blind out though. Like, I think right now we're a little tapped out. So I would love you guys to comment down below what you think. What do you think Love is Blind should do to improve the show, if you even feel like they need to improve anything? But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe down below just to see other content like this. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.